Today I want to take you on a tour of my mom's garden, the garden that I grew up in and really influenced who I am and what I know. So she has a lot of beautiful perennial flowers, all along which, attract all the bees, all the butterflies, and all the really good insects that you need, because gardening is it's not manufacturing. It's creating an ecosystem, and you need a lot of different critters to make it all work. So here's our tomato hothouse. Always produces the best tomatoes. It's like south facing, gets shaded from the apple tree, but still like a lot of tomatoes grown here, so I'm pretty stoked on that. And then here we got more perennial gardens. We have a beautiful black currant bush that we make jam out of every year, and raspberries. Woo! Okay, so there are 7 raised beds here, and this garden is going through a bit of a transition period as my parents are aging and as I think the soil is degrading, so we can't really grow root crops anymore. But look at these flowers. Just look at those puppies. Delphiniums and clematis and beans do really well, so we have this really cool ladder. These are scarlet runner beans and they are the best. And here is a raspberry bush that has decided that it wants to live here. See, the interesting thing about being in a garden and knowing it for about almost 30 years, wow, is that the raspberries used to be in that like fenced off area, but they don't do well there anymore, and now they're just spreading to different parts of the garden, like they're just spreading out, and they're doing way better over here. So in that case, we have to listen to what plants are saying. Like if you listen long enough, you can't actually understand what the plants are saying and what they need. So what this raspberry is saying is that, I don't know, maybe that soil is degrading, or maybe it's too sunny, or it's too shady. But either way, my mama planted me over here, and you know what? I like it. So let it be, man. Let it be there. Like, I think it's silly when we try and transplant things and put them into particular places and then get mad when they don't work. See, you have to listen to that wisdom of the plants. They know where they want to go. And this is a second generation plant, just like me. And it decides it wants to grow here and it's going to have beautiful fruit. Then that's awesome. Let it be. Like, give it space and just go with what works. We got like lima bean patch here, which is pretty sweet. Excited for that. And then over here, this has always been our flower garden at the center of the garden. Ooh, it's bright. It's bright. Yeah, so this attracts, of course, all the great pollinators. It's all perennials too, like, which is the best, honestly. Don't mess around with annual plants, except for veggies. But they can self-seed, so, But yeah, so, we have like some lettuce. Something didn't grow there. Oh my gosh, look at this bee. Look. So delphiniums are so good for bees. Oh my god, look at her. She is huge. That is a queen bee, absolutely. She probably overwintered, and oh yeah. Cool thing about bees is you see that bald spot on their back? The bigger that bald patch is, the older the bee is. Because she's always ruffling around and they live in the ground, so they're often on the ground and get all like, bald. Bees go bald. On their backs. Alright, so we got peas here. And the birds love eating the pea shoots and like this. And we used to, stupid sparrows. And we would have like a water gun and stick our dogs to try and bark them, scare them off. But you know what? Whatever. There's still so many peas down below because they don't mess with the old growth, only the new growth. And you know what? That's fine. if the birds want to come here and poop in our garden and fertilize it, and all we have to do is feed them like a couple pea shoots that we probably wouldn't even eat anyway, like, why not? And it's all about having an excess, you know, but not an excessive amount of excess, but having enough so that everyone gets what they need. And that brings me to my next favorite thing that I am discovering about plants. So here are poppy petals from this patch. So what I'm trying, this is what I'm like learning this year by listening to flowers, is that they want their petals to go on the ground, and they are like a tasty treat, man. Like slugs love flower petals, and so you can put flower petals around your other plants, and the slugs will eat those first and leave your other plants. See, here, I'll show you some slug damage that we have. You can never get rid of slugs. This is the kale patch. And what I do is I chop and drop the leaves that have been, eaten. Looks like a little face. Oh no, I'm gonna get eaten. Sorry, dude. And that way you, for instance, like right here, like this one she did, right? And then when you put them on the ground, and you kind of like, it's chop and drop, but it's also like feeding the slugs, because the slugs are going to eat what's on the ground first. Like, they'd rather not climb up. They only climb up when there's not enough stuff that's on the ground. So I do that with weeds too. Like, so these are weeds, and I just chop and drop them, and they'll actually like disappear fairly quickly, and it's really cool, especially flower petals. Like, I'm going to check on that again tomorrow. But yeah, so, and that way you prune the plants to get them healthier and force them to produce new leaves, while also feeding the soil, and the slugs are part of the soil microbiome, macrobiome, I guess. But yeah, like, you don't want bare soil in your garden. It will crack, it will not hold moisture very well, and it'll bake the earth and dry things out. So by chopping and dropping, so that's always a good thing to have in your garden. Like, for instance, you can use delphinium leaves, comfrey leaves. Lovage is also a good one. We have lovage, and you literally just want to cover the ground. Like, it's pretty simple, because in nature hates bare soil, and that's why weeds exist, because they are the first succession plants in a damaged ecosystem. So they cover the ground, they hold the moisture, they retain it so that it doesn't erode, and then once it dies, it returns all that nutrients and stuff to better bioavailable forms for other things to eat, and it goes from there. So they're very much pioneer species, and the fact that we have ostracized and like fought this battle against weeds is such a testament to our culture of disconnectedness from the world around us, especially through gardening and nature and growing plants and food. And so that's something that I am working towards learning, like either directly from the plants, from my own teachings. You know, I'm an environmental scientist, and I love ecology, and I love plant communities and how it all works together, and just observing how it all works. Nature is the best teacher, honestly, and if we work with her instead of against her, we will regenerate the soil, we will establish these communities that are self-sufficient, and that we don't even really need to baby. It's like babying things and like thinning things, sure, but like weeding obsessively, like here, you know, just weeds. You don't even have to rip out the roots, because you actually want to keep the roots in. Because when you just take off the leaves, as above, so below, there will be die-off on the roots, and it'll slough off all of those nutrients that it had just gathered, giving it back to the other plants that you want. You know, like weeds, yeah, they use energy for sure, and you don't want your garden to be overrun with them, so you just chop and drop them. And I'm also letting a lot of things go to seed, like this is spinach. The mustard greens, they're volunteers, and I don't really want those. It's the yellow flowers. So I'm just like returning those petals to the ground. to stop them from, because they have a lot of seeds. But we have a different type of Greek mustard green that my mom really likes here. So I'm letting this go to seed so that this whole garden will hopefully have a whole bunch. So yeah, self-seeding is also a beautiful thing. Like kale and all the cruciferous, like kale, broccoli, mustard, those are all great at reseeding themselves. Or you save the seeds. You just let them dry out until they're nice and brown and beautiful, and then you can cut them off and either spread them on the ground then or save them over winter and replant them. But a lot of plants need, oh, you're a cute little bee, a period of cold on the seeds. You know, winter, like it needs that to kind of break down the seeds. So it's actually good to just let them do what they want. They will spread the seeds around them, and whatever takes, and they will be more suited to the local environment because, you know, like genetics and evolution and like good traits are being passed on. So it's just a low-key way to garden that is really great for, you know, like my parents as they get older. Like we don't have to be doing back-breaking weeding. Like I'm just chopping, dropping a whole bunch of stuff. Like lovage here, this is lovage. It tastes like celery and it will get huge. And raspberries I harvested for the leaves because raspberry tea is great for cramps. And you know, we have mullein, which is a weed that we brought back from BC, but it's a beautiful medicinal plant too. And like, so there's so much value in this. Like red clover is great for balancing women's hormones, and bees love it. Oh, coral bells, cute. And we have chamomile, which I picked for some tea. It's just beautiful, like the way that it's not all veggies, it's not all flowers, it's not all like herbs, it's just everything together working, and like it's a really cool environment. And this is where this is where I grew up, and this is where I learned how to garden. And to all you out there who want to garden, like even just starting with some pots, like we have so many pots, but just garden and passing on gardening to children is beautiful. It smells so beautiful. And if you want more information on anything, like always, feel free to reach out to me. I love talking about plants. Oh my god, it's so bright. There's a bunch of daisies that popped up. So yeah, thus concludes the tour of my parents' garden.